Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network.
Good morning. I honestly don't even know where to start. Is this today? Is the noon today? Supreme Court will decide if Trump can defy a court order and block congressionally approved foreign aid. If they let him get away with this, he will have unchecked power. If they refuse to stop him, this will be a declaration of war on the United States. The courts are the only thing standing between democracy and full-blown authoritarianism. If they fail, we all lose. Let's start with that one. So this is today, this Supreme Court.
Yeah, I think that, one of the things that people are watching is, I guess there are two things people are watching. Will the courts stand up to Trump? And then will Trump obey the courts?
Yeah.
So I think there are kind of two key things going right here. He has said these things about the courts. We've seen J.D. Vance say things about the courts that, if they issue an order, let them enforce it. And I think that is when we reach this constitutional crisis, when the executive branch disobeys the courts, because what is our recourse? Really, at that point, our only recourse is impeachment. And as we just heard, these members of Congress seem to refuse to stand up to Donald Trump. Certainly some are worried about primary elections, but others, their communities are not enjoying these things. They're getting an earful at these town hall meetings back in their home communities. And it can only be, they're afraid of him. They don't want to be targeted. They don't want to get a mean nickname, which will bring against them, the kind of death threats against them and their families that perhaps they fear. But it is amazing how only, a month into this administration, we have seen him dismantle so many of those checks and balances. But I will be curious to see what the court does, because although the court does have this very expansive view, I think, of executive power, I don't think they are necessarily a rubber stamp for Donald Trump. And so I remain hopeful that the courts still matter.
Yeah.
And perhaps, reining in some of this reign of terror will help the public recognize for what it is, that Trump is really working hard to push the legal limits of the presidency.
You remind me that the founding fathers failed to consider mean nicknames in their
Yeah, that's right. Well, they certainly failed
ways.
to consider social media and the ability to really target people
Right.
and call out the angry mobs the way
Right.
they can today.
And we all hope that the Supreme Court would reach some kind of check or balance. This one, they just blocked a judge's order to quickly unfreeze payments for foreign aid work. A lot of this stuff, Barb, you have to unpack for us because, let's just do that one. And then.
Yeah. So I think one thing about this that people should be aware of is what we're seeing now are temporary restraining orders.
Right.
These are lawsuits that are being filed against all of Trump's executive orders, which happened very quickly. And many of the lawsuits have prevailed, where judges have said, at least temporarily, we're going to block this thing from happening.
Just sidebar, Counselor, sidebar. We just have one out here in California, right? A federal judge in California just entered a TRO against the Office of Personal Management and whatever, finding that OPM illegally terminated probationary federal employees because it had no authority to do so. So that's one of them, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So we're seeing a lot of these temporary restraining orders. And those are kind of just a quick and dirty decision. What a party has to show, there are a number of factors, but essentially substantial likelihood that you're going to win on the merits, down the road. Looks pretty good. Looks like a pretty good lawsuit you got here. And irreparable harm. Unless I block this order, I need to preserve the status quo, or we can never put the genie back in the bottle. Use your own metaphor, the horse back in the barn,
right.
The toothpaste back into the tube. And so they're really temporary orders. They have not yet had a chance to decide these cases on the merits, which takes time, right? You get all the parties have to file briefs. They might have to have a trial. It could take up to a year or more to resolve these cases. And so these intermediate decisions are really just to sort of preserve the status quo. And then, sometimes they appeal up to the Supreme Court. In this instance, with the decision they made Wednesday, it was really simply.
Oh, no. She froze.
The Trump people, the Trump administration said, we can't turn it on that quickly. And so we need a little extra time. And so one hopes that with a couple of days of reprieve, the court will say, time's up, follow that TRO, because it is rare that you see a, uh, a successful overturning of a stay order on appeal,
Yeah.
just because the case has not yet had a chance to work its way through the system.
You mentioned compliance, in terms of the next stage of this constitutional crisis. I mean, because the phrase like, yeah, you and whose army is going to, well,
Yeah.
Donald Trump's making sure it's his army. To me, that's why it's the most chilling. It's the firing of these lawyers, and Pete Hegseth said it out loud that it's so they don't stop anything that might happen. Meaning,
Yeah.
you mean illegal orders that might happen? I mean, he called them jagoffs. And it was at his confirmation hearing, because I keep thinking people go, oh, you're overreacting, martial law. And then on cue, reminder to our troops from General Milley, you took an oath to defend the Constitution, not a would-be king. Refusing illegal and unethical orders are rights. As FOTUS moves closer to installing martial law, please remember your oath and your rights. I mean, that's really chilling, isn't it? What he's doing with the Army.
It really is, and I think this is one that is potentially extremely dangerous. The reason we have lawyers in the military is so that they can decide whether certain activities, orders, directives, plans are legal. They still have to comply with the Constitution, the military code, federal statutes. They can't just act lawlessly. And that's why we have these JAG officers who are high level, who are trained in the law, and who are there to provide legal advice, to rein in the military. These are the military lawyers. There are also civilian lawyers in the Defense Department, but these are the lawyers designed to rein in unlawful orders by the military. And if we've removed all of them and now replaced them with Donald Trump's hand-picked choices, what would be the reason for that? I mean, he even said that these people have served honorably. There's no problem with their service. And I really worry that if we're choosing loyalists to plug in there, it's going to be problematic. The key word I keep hearing from Pete Hegseth is war fighters. We need war fighters.
Yeah.
And to my ear, it sounds like a focus on aggression and a focus on kind of ends justifies the means. And in the United States, we're all about the means. We're all about doing things lawfully, the right way. It is what gives us the moral authority to lead in the world. And if we are just one more power-grabbing nation, then I think we're losing that moral authority.
Barb, someone made that great point when he gave that ridiculous speech overseas about, like military strength is all that matters and you can't shoot values or whatever that stupid speech was. And people are like, if military strength were all that, mattered, why did Russia lose in Afghanistan? Why did we lose in Vietnam? I mean, it's... Anyway, it's just, but here's the thing. In case you think I'm engaging in hyperbole, here's the headline. White House point man at Homeland Security shared martial law option to keep Trump in office. His point man for dealing with the DHS is a former far-right podcast host, here we go again, an election denier who once shared an article calling for martial law to keep Trump in office following his loss in 2020. Paul Igracia, is that his he expressed it on some podcast he hosted and elsewhere. I mean, that's the thing is you keep trying to say, oh, I don't want to overreact, but I also wonder if we're underreacting to what is clearly...
Well,
Go ahead.
I think some people are. I mean, certainly, I don't know that I'm underreacting because my hair's on fire, but there are certainly people out. I mean, some people are cheering on some of the things that Donald Trump is doing. They think the federal government is too big, and so they appreciate the dismantling, whatever. I mean, some of these things are part of what he was elected on. But other things, it isn't so much the what he's doing in terms of his priorities, but the how he's doing it. Firing people, replacing them with his loyalists, because the worry is he is really setting us up for an abuse of power without people inside who can serve as an adequate check on that abuse of power. I mean, General Milley is someone who was there and I think gave us comfort that he was not going to enforce an illegal order. And can you say the same thing about Dan Raisin Kane, who is clearly being picked because he is a Trumper. This is
Yeah.
something that in authoritarian regimes all the time, which is a purging of people who care about the law and have integrity, and a replacement with loyalists. It's happening before our eyes.
Well, you mentioned it, I think, on Blue Sky. You said federal prosecutors are not the president's lawyers. Prosecutors take an oath to support and defend the Constitution, not to implement the president's agenda faithfully. I mean, there's a whole story about this today. I'm not looking to go back to the past, Trump said before the election. I'm looking to make our country successful. Retribution will be through success. Well, of course, it's another of the 11 billion things he lied about. This story says anyone listening to Donald Trump during the campaign, knowing his background of distortion and untruth, had to see it coming. Retribution for Donald Trump is like breathing for him, said Senator Blumenthal. We warned about it, and now it's here, so we just need to fight it. Ed Martin, the U.S. Attorney for D.C., has acted as a legal attack dog for Trump. That's who you're referring to, calling himself Trump's personal lawyer. So he sent threatening letters to Chuck Schumer, to Robert Garcia, one of our congresspeople from out here. He also vowed to use his office to protect Musk's Department of Doge or whatever, and to hold accountable those who threaten the group. Chris Murphy said what's happening at the D.C. Attorney's Office is despotic. Ed Martin is an absolutely anti-democratic, totalitarian menace. I mean, I said this, Barb, before the election. I'm like, they aren't going to need evidence or facts in Trump 2.0. They're just going to investigate people anyway. I mean, and that's really chilling, isn't it?
Yeah, and chilling is a good word, because it does not appear that they have sufficient evidence to successfully prosecute Chuck Schumer or Robert Garcia or any of these people. And yet, by sending these shots across the bow, I think the goal is to have a chilling effect, to intimidate people into silence. Trump wrote something in his book, The Art of the Deal, and who knows how much of that book he really wrote himself. I know he had ghost authors. But one of the things he said is something that he has seemed to live by, which is if somebody crosses you, you counterpunch times 10, because it isn't so much about retribution on the individual. It is for all the other people who are watching, because if they see what happens to this person who dared to cross you, then they will be deterred from crossing you in the future.
Yep.
And that's what this is all about, to silence critics.
Yep.
He does not have the power to prosecute people for saying critical things about Donald Trump. True threats to kill somebody, to harm somebody, yes. But that's not what these people said. Schumer was about something like, you've released the whirlwind, and you won't know what hit you in response to this. Now, he didn't say, I will harm this person. He said, you have unleashed a response. Same with Robert Garcia, who, called Trump a male genital part.
I think it was Musk, but same thing.
Called Musk, yeah. He called Musk.
President Musk.
Vulgar, sure.
True, yes.
Yeah, maybe. But not a threat that is prosecutable.
Right.
And he knows that, but and he knows he's not supposed to be Trump's lawyer. Federal prosecutors are lawyers on behalf of the United States of America, not the president.
Yep.
And yet you see in all these memos this same through line about people who are being fired. We do not have the confidence that you can implement the president's agenda faithfully. That's not the role of lawyers.
Yep.
Lawyers are there to enforce the law and provide legal advice, not to carry out the president's agenda.
I'm super long, but 30 seconds for a happy clappy ending story. 23 Democratic AGs thinks they've cracked the code to fighting Trump is the headline. The attorneys general, who see themselves as the last backstop between the people and the president, their multi-state lawsuits have temporarily stopped the president from revoking birthright citizenship, freezing federal funding, cutting off money for medical research. Right now in the United States, Democratic AGs are the only group of people who are united and working to prevent some of these unconstitutional actions from continuing, said one of them. They are executing a plan they worked to develop a year before Trump's return to the White House, which was smart. Do you have faith that, this seems to me to be, again, the only thing that's working right now?
Yeah, so these lawsuits are working, and kudos to the AGs who are representing the people who live in their states who are being hurt by some of these executive orders. But they're not the only ones. We're seeing labor unions on behalf of employees. Yeah. We're seeing individual plaintiffs. And so the courts are there for anybody to take advantage of who is harmed by one of Trump's executive orders. And I think that is the best way to push back against unlawful orders.
All right. Barb, thank you so much. I keep you so long because I'm so clingy about you. Go Wolverines.
Oh, hey there, it's Stephanie Miller. If you're like me and you love sharp political insight, pointy, you like it pointy and sharp, bold opinions, and a touch of humor to make sense of these crazy times, have I got some fantastic news for you. The Political Voices Network is now on Substack. This is your new go-to for the best in independent media. We're talking about my show streaming daily with episodes on demand, the fearless of journalism of Brian Karem, the brilliant side-splitting satire of John Fugelsang, the unrelenting working class advocacy of Rick Smith, and so much more. Here's the best part. Subscribing is so easy. You can join for free or go to the extra mile. Support these incredible independent voices by signing up for a full subscription starting at just $8. You'll get access to exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and a chance to directly fuel fearless, unfiltered media. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to politicalvoicesnetwork.com, hit that subscribe button, and become part of the movement keeping truth alive in an era of corporate media overload. Every subscription helps, especially yours. One more time, that is politicalvoicesnetwork.com. Sign up now. Do it.